In order to understand my videos, you first have to take away your own prejudices. You have to take away your own predetermined landing spots. You see, Brian, you started out with a simple comment, and that simple comment, I gave you a simple answer back. If you think that what I said about the Anunnaki is the dumbest thing you've ever heard or the worst thing you've ever heard, then, like I said, you evidently have not read the Bible and recognized the idiocy that proceeds out of the words of the book. And in the argument that you was having with someone else that went forever and a day, you made this statement of saying that you've watched a few of my videos. After watching some of my videos, that I'm basically imposing other cultural stories into the Bible and preaching it as one giant myth. Your wording is what intrigued me here, that I'm imposing other cultural stories into the Bible. When you look at the video that I spoke about the Anunnaki, I am not imposing the culture of the Anunnaki into the Bible. What I am doing is an exposition as to how the biblical stories copied from the Sumerian stories, how the biblical stories copied from the Greek stories, how it copied from the Kemetic stories, how it copied from, not necessarily of its own original stories. So therefore, I am not imposing other cultures into the Bible, but exposing how the Bible has utilized other people's culture to create and manifest their own stories. Now, this is not something that only the Israelite people did, but this is something that people from many cultures did. When a culture developed at any certain stage, they have carryover from the previous cultures to which they existed in. And I'll give you a prime example of how the Bible identifies this. When you look at the story of Abraham, your Bible tells you that Abraham separated himself from his people, from his culture, from the city of Ur. The city of Ur was, yes, a Semitic city, but it was first a Sumerian city, which is not Semitic, became an Akkadian city, which Akkadians are Semitic, then an Assyrian city, Assyrians are Semitic, and then it became a Babylonian city, again, Semitic, and then a Persian city, non-Semitic, and then a Greek city, and so on and so forth. But during the time frame of Abram, it was either a Sumerian or Akkadian city. So therefore, you can identify and see how the story of Abraham, the stories of Sodom and Gomorrah, are Sumerian storylines of how Enlil destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah and 7 other cities by a deadly wind, based on his battle against Marduk to become the Satan, or the administrator over the earth. And that story from Abraham is basically how Abraham still worshiped Enlil, because Enlil gathered his people that still believed in him to fight against the people who believed in Marduk. And then from that story, it continued on into and continued on and became an Israelite Hebrew story. So the Sodom and Gomorrah story itself, and Abraham and 2 angels bartering about, 2 or 3 angels bartering about, I think it was 2 angels bartering about whether or not Sodom and Gomorrah should be destroyed, is really a story about Enlil bartering with Abram as to whether or not the 2 cities should be destroyed. But Enlil went ahead and destroyed the cities because they were Marduk's communication towers, communication cities, and therefore those cities were destroyed. But what they didn't account for was the radioactive wind, which is what most scholars estimate that it would have been, went off and destroyed 7 other Mesopotamian cities. And the reason why this becomes more valid than the biblical version of the story is because archaeologists have found 7 Mesopotamian cities that fit in and around that time frame, that it looks as if the people just abandoned the city, like all of a sudden. Like right now, I'm in San Diego, and if an alarm came that there was a radioactive cloud on its way from the Pacific, then, and everyone just left, you would see things in a way that people just up and left. Stoves left on, refrigerations left on, water hoses left on. People just grabbed what they could in a quick haste and just retreated. We see a similar thing when, if you ever go to, the city just fell out my head, at the bottom of Vesuvius, Pompeii, that you can see how the people tried to leave in a rush, right? But some got caught in the pyroclastic flow, but others, you can see how they just left. They just left pots on some of their stoves, and that demonstrated they just ran out of the city. And because we know the causation of this, we understand the process of what happened. So when you look at those 7 cities, they look in a similar fashion, and so we estimate that that is why they all of a sudden left. But this story had been changed to fit the Hebrew story of Abraham and Sodom and Gomorrah and Lot and so on and so forth, in order to propagate a propaganda story for the Israelite people, to give them authenticity, with giving them antiquity and a will of their God as to why these things happen. But as far as other cultures, me trying to push other cultures into the Bible is completely the opposite of the Bible bringing in from other cultures. In the same way that if you live in America, we are on this road trip across, well, hell, we've come across America. We just haven't went to the beach yet. We've experienced multiple cultures as we come across, but those cultures are a mixture of people from Mexico, people from the what has become a black culture or a Caucasian culture in America, that mixes together and creates the culture that's in El Paso, or the culture that's in Dallas, or the culture that was in Phoenix, which are very different from the culture of Atlanta, where I grew up. And even in a conversation I had today with a barber, check the fresh cut, got the lineup, we were talking about the difference in the culture of San Diego compared to the culture of the different cultures in Atlanta. And here, people are more about being outside and exercising and walking, that sort of thing. Atlanta is more about sitting down and eating and getting plump. So different cultures have mixtures, and we can see that mixture in your Bible from different cultures of the Levant, different, well, let me just not even say Levant, different cultures of the Mediterranean coming into your book, and those qualities being put in the book to make it their own. But I'm not forcing other cultures in the Bible. The Bible takes from other cultures and has some of their own cultures in it. So let me not say it's completely plagiarized. There are some aspects that they develop on their own over time of identifying themselves as a separate culture. And those are what you find in more of your later books of the Bible past the Pentateuch. But the problem with the issue with most of those is they still are incorporating other people's culture, simply because there is only identifiable by archaeology, only a very short couple of 100 years that the Israelites legitimately controlled their portion of the Levant without being a vassal state of either the Assyrians, the Arcadians, or the Cometics, or the Greeks, or the Romans, or anybody else. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.